Welcome to Success Lab. People think life works like a machine. Insert desire. Press the button called effort. Wait for success to fall out. But life does not respond to what you want. Life responds to what you believe. You can want wealth and still live in survival. You can want love and still choose loneliness. You can want confidence and still hide from your own reflection. And then you ask why the results never change. The truth is simple and brutal. The world does not mirror your wishes. It reflects your convictions. Look at your life, your job, your relationship, your income, your habits, your fears. None of these are accidents. They are the visible shape of invisible beliefs. Somewhere along the way, you decided what kind of life was realistic. Somewhere, you accepted what you thought you deserved. Somewhere, you learned what was safe to want and what was dangerous to dream, and you called it maturity. But it was training. Thomas Edison did not believe darkness was permanent, so he created light. Andrew Carnegie did not believe poverty was destiny, so he built empires of steel. Abraham Lincoln did not believe defeat defined a man, so he carried a fractured nation on his shoulders. Walt Disney did not believe imagination was childish, so he turned dreams into kingdoms. They did not receive what they wanted. They received what they believed strongly enough to act upon. Belief is not a slogan. It is not positive thinking. Belief is the silent force behind every decision you make when no one is watching. Belief chooses whether you quit or continue. Belief decides whether you shrink or stand tall. Belief determines whether fear becomes your master or your fuel. You do not become what you desire. You become what you accept as true about yourself. If you believe you are small, greatness will feel uncomfortable. If you believe you are behind, progress will feel like danger. If you believe you are weak, strength will feel exhausting. This is not punishment. This is programming. Your mind was trained to survive before it was trained to create. It learned to avoid pain before it learned to pursue purpose. It learned limits before it learned possibility. So most people live cautiously. They stay safe. They stay quiet. They stay within lines they never drew. They breathe, but they do not expand. They exist, but they do not build. Because their belief is small and life reshapes itself to match it. Remember this law. Reality does not argue with belief. Reality obeys it. Not instantly, not magically, but gradually. Through habits, through daily choices, through what you tolerate, through what you attempt, through what you walk away from, through what you settle for. Belief is the seed, action is the root, and results are the harvest. Most people want to change the harvest without ever touching the seed. They want money but keep thinking like survivors. They want respect but see themselves as insignificant. They want freedom but let fear decide their direction. True transformation never starts outside. It starts within. Ask yourself, what do I believe about who I am? Do I see myself as capable? Do I see myself as worthy? Do I see myself as powerful? Because your belief becomes your boundary. As a child, you believed you could fly. Then the world taught you gravity. You believed your voice mattered. Then the world taught you silence. You believed effort was exciting. Then the world taught you shame. And slowly, you stopped imagining and started accepting. I am just like this. That sentence has buried more dreams than failure ever could. But belief can be rewritten the same way it was written, through repetition, through emotion, through evidence. When you act against an old belief, a new identity is born. When you stand while afraid, your mind learns, I am not weak. When you move after failure, your mind learns, I do not stop. And slowly your self-image changes, your standards rise, your future shifts shape. Because now you are no longer someone who only wants. You are someone who believes, and the one who believes moves. The one who moves becomes, and the one who becomes reshapes the world around them. Belief is not passive. It does not sit quietly and hope the world will notice you. Belief demands proof. It demands action. It demands courage long before comfort arrives. It whispers in the quiet moments, keep going, even when every fiber of your body screams to quit. It commands your feet to move when the path ahead is shadowed, and it refuses to let yesterday define tomorrow. When Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, he wasn't offering a clever aphorism. He was describing the invisible engine that drives every life. Your thoughts, your convictions, your self-image, these are the pistons, gears, and fuel of your destiny. Your belief shapes your vision, and your vision directs your effort. And your effort, repeated without pause, becomes the story you live. Belief is muscular. It grows through repetition. It strengthens through discomfort. It is forged when you wake up early while the world sleeps, when you work without applause, when you choose the difficult path because the easy one is empty. Each act of courage, each refusal to obey fear, builds new neural pathways in your mind, rewiring what you once thought was immutable. Most people never understand this. They chase techniques, hacks, and shortcuts. They study success externally, books, videos, mentors, while neglecting the internal blueprint. They hope external forces will deliver results without first mastering the machinery within. But no tool, no trick, no tip will replace the invisible authority of belief. Your self-image determines the size of your goals. It dictates the height of your ambitions, the depth of your persistence, the length of your patience. If you see yourself as small, no amount of coaching will make you act like a giant. If you see yourself as ordinary, no opportunity will ever feel extraordinary. And if you see yourself as a victim, the world will conspire to confirm your fears. Clarity emerges from belief, not from information, not from insight alone. When you know who you are allowed to be, the fog lifts, vision sharpens, purpose gains resonance. Direction becomes a matter of obedience to your higher self rather than a guessing game between desires and doubts. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I don't?" You stop negotiating with comfort and start bargaining with growth. Discipline is belief in motion. It is the language your convictions speak when words fail. Belief says, "I am capable," and discipline proves it through repetition. Belief says, "This matters," and discipline confirms it through sacrifice. Belief says, "I am becoming," and discipline refuses to let inertia dictate your future. But the road is never easy. The old self will resist. Familiarity is seductive. Fear is persuasive. Temptation to return to comfort is constant. Every step toward your new belief triggers a quiet war inside, a war between who you were taught to be and who you are destined to become. Every act of focus, every choice to endure, every moment you lean into discomfort is a victory, and each victory, no matter how small, expands the boundaries of what you believe is possible. The great achievers of history understood this principle intuitively. Edison endured thousands of failed experiments because he believed the light was inevitable. Carnegie faced rejection after rejection because he believed wealth was not an accident, but a responsibility. Lincoln faced repeated political defeats because he believed in the Union's survival over his personal comfort. Disney faced bankruptcy, ridicule, and countless failures because he believed that imagination could create reality. None of them received what they merely wanted. They received what they refused to stop believing in, even when the world screamed otherwise. Belief is stubborn. It refuses to compromise with doubt. It refuses to accept temporary defeat as permanent. It refuses to bow to societal norms that favor mediocrity over mastery. And it demands evidence, not a single moment of luck, but a pattern of consistency. A life built from acts aligned with what you hold to be true about yourself. You begin to notice the subtle ways belief reshapes your life. The same streets, the same workplace, the same daily routines begin to feel different. Opportunities that once seemed like risk now feel like invitations. Challenges that once seemed like barriers now feel like raw material. The world hasn't changed yet, but your perception has. And perception, when powered by belief, is as good as reality. Gratitude accelerates belief. Not the empty, forced kind of gratitude you see on social media, but the deep, unwavering acknowledgement that life is working in subtle ways toward your unfolding purpose. When you appreciate the small victories, the lessons hidden in failure, the guidance buried in difficulty, you send a signal to your subconscious mind. You believe in the abundance of life. And when the mind believes, action becomes unstoppable. Adaptability is born from belief. Resilience is born from belief. Learning is born from belief. When you know that you are capable of more than you have been told, when you know that your potential is not fixed, every obstacle transforms into a classroom. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every criticism becomes data. And every fear becomes fuel. This is the paradox. You cannot control the world, but you can control the lens through which you see it. Belief is the lens. Belief magnifies your strengths, clarifies your vision, and aligns your energy. Belief converts failure into feedback, pressure into pressure, testing, and adversity into advantage. Those who master this lens become architects of their own destiny, regardless of circumstance. The journey is gradual. There is no instant transformation, but there is undeniable progress. Each morning you rise with purpose, each decision you make with conviction, each obstacle you face without retreat strengthens the architecture of your belief. And over time, that architecture becomes unshakable. When you act consistently in alignment with your belief, the old narrative of fear, doubt, and limitation loses its authority. You no longer look for permission. You no longer wait for validation. You move with quiet certainty because inside, your mind already knows the truth. What you believe, you become. Belief is the silent architect of your life. It shapes the invisible blueprint that determines the size of your dreams, the courage of your steps, and the magnitude of your accomplishments. It whispers before action, speaks through repetition, and roars when opportunity arrives. and yet it is invisible to the untrained eye. Most people wander through life unaware that every result they see is only the reflection of what they accept as true about themselves. Clarity emerges not from planning alone, but from knowing what you genuinely believe about your own potential. Most people confuse business with progress, confusion with direction, and repetition with discipline. They perform actions, yet the actions are unaligned. The outcome is predictable frustration, mediocrity, a life half-lived. Real clarity comes when your mind, body, and soul align with a belief so deep it refuses to compromise. It is the clarity that drives Edison to try 10,000 experiments, Carnegie to write countless letters of rejection, Lincoln to endure endless political humiliation, Disney to persist through bankruptcy and mockery. Clarity is born from belief that surpasses fear, doubt, and temporary setbacks. Purpose is inseparable from belief. You cannot find a purpose that is larger than what you think you are capable of achieving. The size of your purpose is a mirror of the size of your belief. If you believe you are destined to scrape by, your purpose will always feel small. If you believe you are born to leave a mark, your purpose will seem impossible because it must be. Greatness does not fit inside comfort zones. Greatness shatters expectation. Greatness requires that you rise before your fears, speak when your voice trembles, and move when inertia threatens to consume you. Discipline is not punishment, it is belief made tangible. It is the language your soul speaks when your lips fail to articulate conviction. Discipline says, I will rise when it is hard. I will speak when silence is easy. And I will persist when quitting feels natural. Without discipline, belief remains a vague sentiment, a dream whispered in the dark. With discipline, belief transforms into reality, one decisive, uncomfortable, persistent act at a time. Action is the crucible of belief. You cannot merely sit and think yourself into a transformed life. The world is not moved by desire, it is moved by consistent, intelligent, bold action. Every act of courage, no matter how small, leaves a mark on your mind, rewires your perception of possibility, and strengthens your internal authority. The person who believes in their capacity to create opportunity does not wait for circumstances to be perfect, they act in spite of imperfection, shaping circumstance to serve them instead of the other way around. Most people fail because they underestimate the subtle, cumulative power of these acts. They overestimate instant results, seek shortcuts, and abandon consistency. Belief requires patience and repetition. It requires that you move when motivation is absent, that you persist when results are invisible, that you continue when others would quit. And this is exactly why so few achieve mastery, because they fail to sustain the invisible engine of belief long enough for it to produce the visible harvest. Gratitude magnifies belief, not the shallow, performative gratitude so often posted on social media, but the profound acknowledgement that life is working toward your unfolding. Gratitude rewires the mind to focus on abundance, not lack. When you are grateful for lessons hidden in struggle, for growth born from failure, for opportunities even in adversity, you signal to your subconscious, I trust life, and I trust myself. Gratitude becomes a silent partner in the construction of your new reality. It strengthens resolve, elevates perception, and intensifies action. Adaptability is born from belief. The world is unpredictable, relentless, and indifferent to your expectations. The person whose belief is flexible, anchored not in comfort but in identity, navigates these storms with a composure others envy. Resilience flows from this same source. When you believe that failure is temporary and setbacks are instructive, you respond with intelligence, creativity, and courage instead of fear and despair. You do not collapse when the world shifts, you pivot. You do not give in when challenges rise, you rise higher. Every obstacle becomes a laboratory, every difficulty a teacher, every setback a foundation for future triumph. Learning is a product of belief. When you believe you are capable of more, learning transforms from obligation into opportunity. Knowledge is not gathered passively, it is sought with hunger, assimilated with intention, and applied with courage. The mind of the believer never settles. It is always questioning, refining, expanding, and evolving. The believer sees every failure as data, every critique as guidance, and every success as evidence that potential is real, not imagined. History proves this principle again and again. Edison, Carnegie, Lincoln, Disney, none succeeded because they wished or waited. They succeeded because they believed, acted, persisted, and learned relentlessly. They trusted in the invisible mechanisms of their own mind, even when the world offered doubt. And in doing so, they created legacies that outlived them, shaping generations and redefining the boundaries of possibility. The paradox is this: you cannot control the world, but you can control the lens through which you view it. Belief is the lens. Belief magnifies your strengths, clarifies your vision, and aligns your actions. Belief converts failure into feedback, pressure into testing, adversity into advantage. Those who master this lens shape their destiny regardless of circumstance. The journey is never instantaneous. Transformation is gradual, accumulative, relentless. Each day of persistence strengthens the scaffolding of belief. Each choice made with courage expands the perimeter of possibility. Each challenge faced without retreat strengthens the unseen muscles of your mind. And eventually the architecture of belief becomes unshakable. When action, discipline, learning, adaptability, and gratitude are fused with unwavering belief, doubt loses authority, fear loses voice, limitation loses power. You no longer look for permission. You no longer seek validation. You move with quiet certainty because inside, your mind already knows the ultimate truthy. You do not get what you want, you get what you believe. Belief does not simply sit in your mind. It moves through every fiber of your being. It manifests in your posture, your speech, the way you interact with the world. You can see it in the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth and in the fearless focus of someone who has embraced their purpose. Every habit, every routine, every decision either reinforces your belief or erodes it. The person who rises early, works while the world sleeps, and pushes beyond discomfort is not just disciplined. They are living proof of their convictions. Resilience is the natural offspring of such belief. Life is relentless, unforgiving, and often absurd in its challenges. Those who survive and thrive do so not because they are luckier or stronger, but because they have cultivated a mind that refuses to surrender. Resilience is born from the understanding that setbacks are temporary, and that failure is not the enemy but a teacher. Edison did not despair after thousands of failed experiments. He persisted because he believed that light could be brought into existence where darkness once reigned. Lincoln did not quit after repeated political defeats. He continued because he believed the Union was worth every ounce of struggle. Resilience, like belief, is invisible until it becomes undeniable. Purpose and clarity are intertwined with belief. You cannot discover a purpose larger than your belief allows. The moment you expand your belief, you expand the horizon of your purpose. This is why so many drift through life unfulfilled. They have confined themselves to a belief that is too small, too cautious, too tethered to comfort. The believer, however, measures life by growth, not by approval. They measure impact not by applause, but by alignment with the inner truth of their identity. And what is identity but the culmination of repeated belief in action? Who you are is not determined by titles, wealth, or external recognition. It is determined by the invisible choices you make when no one is watching. The quiet hours when you choose persistence over surrender, discipline over indulgence, learning over stagnation, are what build identity. And identity, once forged, becomes unshakable. Once you believe you are capable, the world begins to bend, not because it must, but because you now interpret it differently. Doors that once seemed closed begin to appear as invitations. Problems that once felt insurmountable transform into challenges to be solved, and opportunities always present are suddenly seen, grasped, and acted upon. Every great figure in history understood this principle. Carnegie did not start with resources, he started with belief in the possibilities his mind could conceive. Edison did not see failure as a stop sign, he saw it as a map toward mastery. Lincoln did not measure himself by the victories of others, he measured himself by the integrity of his vision. Disney did not wait for permission to dream, he created a world where imagination became reality. What unified them was not luck, timing, or talent alone, it was the unrelenting belief that what they could see in their mind was achievable in the world. Belief is stubborn and patient. It cannot be rushed. It grows quietly through repetition, persistence, and endurance. Each morning you wake with intention, each decision you make with courage, and each challenge you face without surrender is a brick in the foundation of your destiny. Over time, this invisible architecture becomes unbreakable, and once belief becomes unshakable, it creates a gravitational pull that draws circumstances, people, and resources into alignment with it. Yet, belief alone is insufficient without disciplined action. Action translates belief into reality. Without action, belief becomes an abstract dream, a story told in the mind but never manifested in the world. Action is the hammer that shapes the clay of possibility into the sculpture of achievement. It is the persistent knocking at doors, the repeated efforts despite rejection, the choice to continue when quitting is easier. Action requires courage because it moves you into discomfort, challenges old programming, and forces the invisible to meet the tangible. Gratitude and adaptability magnify the power of belief. Gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance. It transforms setbacks into lessons, failure into feedback, and struggle into fuel. Adaptability allows you to navigate the unpredictable currents of life without losing momentum. The world will not conform to your plans, but a mind anchored in belief will turn obstacles into opportunities, resistance into redirection, and chaos into the canvas upon which your purpose is painted. Learning is an extension of belief. When you believe in your capacity to evolve, every experience becomes educational. Failure becomes data, criticism becomes insight, and success becomes evidence of what is possible. The learner sees beyond the immediate and invests in the potential that unfolds only through time, effort, and reflection. Knowledge without belief is inert, belief without learning is blind. Together, they form the twin engines of mastery. The paradox of belief is simple yet profound. You cannot control the world, but you can control the lens through which you see it. That lens determines the energy you project, the opportunities you recognize, and the courage you summon. Those who master this lens live lives that appear miraculous to outsiders, not because the world bends easily, but because their perception, fortified by belief, interprets every circumstance as fuel for growth, every challenge as a gateway, and every delay as preparation. Ultimately, belief is not a temporary tool. It is the foundation of a life lived with purpose. It is the force that converts vision into execution, struggle into strength, and potential into reality. The person who understands this does not measure life by comfort, approval, or circumstance. They measure it by alignment between what they believe, who they are becoming, and the actions they take in service of that truth. The culmination of belief is not an external reward, it is a transformation that begins deep inside. When belief runs through your veins, every action, every thought, every choice aligns with the unseen architecture of your destiny. You do not need permission. You do not wait for validation. You act because your inner authority demands it. The world may doubt, resist, or ignore you, but your mind already knows the truth. You do not get what you want. You get what you believe. Belief carries with it responsibility. It is not a shield to hide behind, nor a comfort to cling to. It is a call to mastery. Those who truly believe understand that greatness is measured not by what others give you, but by how relentlessly you pursue what is within your reach. Carnegie did not wait for steel to be handed to him. Edison did not wait for electricity to be discovered by someone else. Lincoln did not wait for his opponents to give him approval. Disney did not wait for culture to condone imagination. They acted, they endured, they persisted, and the world eventually yielded because they refused to negotiate with doubt. There will always be voices, outside and inside, that tell you it is impossible, that warn you of limits, that remind you of your failures. But belief silences them, not through denial or ignorance, but through evidence produced by action. Each day you do what must be done despite fear. You create proof that expands the boundaries of what you know is possible. Each challenge you meet, each obstacle you overcome, each discomfort you endure becomes the data that strengthens your conviction. And as your conviction grows, your results follow inevitably because the universe reflects the authority of your mind. Discipline, consistency, and courage are the tools that translate belief into reality. Discipline says, even when tired, I continue. Consistency says, even when unseen, I persist. Courage says, even when afraid, I act. When these converge with belief, effort ceases to be random. It becomes unstoppable. Your actions, even the small ones repeated daily, accumulate into momentum so powerful that doubt cannot resist, and inertia cannot hold you back. Gratitude ensures that this momentum is sustainable. The person who believes but complains is limited. The person who believes and appreciates every lesson, every small victory, every step forward fuels their mind and heart with energy that sustains persistence through trials. Gratitude creates clarity, strengthens focus, and reminds the mind that life is abundant, not scarce. It ensures that belief does not become arrogance, but remains a disciplined, expansive force guiding every choice. Adaptability ensures survival in the unpredictable flow of life. The world rarely unfolds according to plan. Unexpected challenges appear, opportunities shift, circumstances change. But a mind rooted in belief does not panic, it pivots, it improvises, it finds solutions where others see only obstacles. The believer is not rigid, they are resilient. They bend when necessary but never break. They adjust without losing sight of the truth they hold about themselves and their potential. Learning is the catalyst that continually expands what you believe is possible. A believer is always a student. Every failure is a lesson. Every criticism is a guide. Every success is evidence. Knowledge is not collected for vanity. It is assimilated to reinforce belief. The learner grows, and with growth comes the proof that belief is not mere fantasy. It is functional, practical, unstoppable. At the core of all this is one unshakable truth: the outer world is never the source of change. You cannot control outcomes, timing, or others' actions. You can only control the lens through which you see the world, and the lens is belief. Belief determines how you interpret setbacks, how you respond to challenges, how you act when opportunity arrives. Those who understand this principle wield power over life itself, not through magic, luck, or chance, but through the consistent, aligned, and unrelenting force of conviction translated into action. And here is the final measure: those who truly master belief do not fear the future. They do not measure life by the absence of obstacles or the comfort of circumstances. They measure life by the alignment between what they hold to be true, who they are becoming, and the daily actions they take in service of that truth. This alignment produces results so profound that outsiders call it genius, talent, or luck. But those who know the truth call it the inevitable consequence of belief in motion. You do not get what you want. You do not get what you wish for. You do not get what is convenient or easy. You get what you believe deeply, persistently, unshakably. Every great achievement, every moment of extraordinary success, every instance of transformation in history began here, in the invisible chamber of the mind, with a conviction so real that nothing external could override it. So, rise with your belief. Let it shape your mornings, guide your actions, and define your identity. Let it sharpen your vision and amplify your courage. Let it transform doubt into fuel, failure into lessons, and obstacles into opportunities. Carry it with the knowledge that your results are not accidents. They are reflections of the authority you grant to your own mind. The world will challenge you. Fear will whisper. Failure will tempt you to quit. But every step you take in obedience to your belief expands the frontier of what is possible. Every act of courage, persistence, and discipline proves that the limits you once accepted were never real. They were only stories you told yourself. And now, the story changes. You are no longer a passenger waiting for life to deliver your desires. You are the architect of reality, the author of your destiny, and the living proof that belief shapes the world. You do not get what you want, you get what you believe. Believe bigger, act bolder, persist longer, and watch as your life, once constrained by doubt, rises to reflect the full magnitude of your conviction. This is your truth. This is your power. This is the law that governs not just success, but mastery over your own existence. Thanks for watching.